Today's guest is one of my dearest friends. I love her to pieces. Her name is Rosangela Parker. She was previously on the Intern Whisperer. This show is brought to you by Employers for Change. We help hiring teams reduce hiring bias and increase competency, skill recruitment, and learning. And as I was mentioning, Rosangela was a previous guest in season 4, episode 158. Be sure to go and listen to that podcast. We'll provide that link for you. And you want to make sure, here it is, 3 years later, she is back on the show, but she's in a different position and she's totally entrenched in startup life. I knew it wouldn't take long for you to become one of us.
I'm here, and I'm loving it. Thank you so much
my
for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we're both on the entrepreneur and startup life team. Yay.
Yay.
So congratulations on your new role at Plug and Play Tech Center. I'm not sure why we get to have a tech center, but we do. I'm sure you might know something about that. Can you tell us more about what your role is as a program manager and how you will be helping to shape Orlando's startup ecosystem?
Absolutely. So I will tell you, yes, I am 4 weeks into my new role and I'm absolutely loving it. I am drinking from a fire hose right now as I'm trying to absorb all the information. It is a large multinational organization with its headquarters in Silicon Valley with its focus on innovation. And so I can tell you that the organization has been growing by leaps and bounds, new locations opening across the nation. And Smart Cities Orlando will be a year old here in 2025. So it is
No way.
new. Yes, it is. Just 1 year old. It'll be 1 year old that in Q1. So our location specifically is Smart Cities Orlando. Now, I mentioned smart cities because that is one of the verticals under Plug and Play. Plug and Play has over 30 different verticals. Each one is mostly industry specific, but when it comes to smart cities, we're kind of a hub for several different verticals. So you're talking energy and sustainability, mobility, the Internet of Things are now kindly referred to as deep tech, as well as the real estate and construction sector. That's what we are currently under when it comes to smart cities. That's what we focus on in this specific location. Locations across the globe have different specialties and different areas of interest. So there's always something for any of our startups that we come across. If it doesn't fit within our wheelhouse, there's likely one across our network that they could benefit from.
Wow. I'm going to tell you a little bit of my experience. An investor, a woman, she did not invest in my company yet. I'm going to go back and circle to her, but she introduced me to Plug and Play. His name is Alex Tran, and he's kind of high up there. He's a partner. And the Plug and Play, it is one of the oldest. I did not know that. It's like, I don't know, ridiculous. I'm going to say 20 years old, but I'm pretty sure you said how old it was. But it's been around for a while and I had never heard about it. And I thought it sounded like they sold toys, honestly. Anyway, I think it's exciting that you're working for such a dynamic group that's there to help the ecosystem of what startups are and actually promises and does things that sometimes a lot of groups don't do. So coming back over here on this smart cities, smart cities, I know you gave us a definition of it, and that's super helpful. But many times people don't know that smart means, I have to go through it: specific, measurable, actionable. I don't know. I'm going to go look it up right now, and I should even know these. But the acronym, do you? Because I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm going to help you out here. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And that's what the acronym SMART actually does mean. And I find that interesting in this place of technology because we're measuring everything that we do. So you had mentioned a number of areas. You said semiconductors. What is it that we're involved with here in Orlando?
So Orlando currently has 2 locations. Neo City focuses on semiconductors. That is their vertical, their area of specialization. Now, when it comes to Orlando, we are Smart Cities Orlando. Our facility is located at UCF's Research Park. our focus is on those things under smart cities. So that encapsulates energy and sustainability, the Internet of Things, also referred to as deep tech, mobility, as well as real estate and construction. Those are the areas that our location here at the UCF Research Park location, those are the areas we focus in for our startups.
Very nice. Thanks for clarifying that also. So now I'm going to go to question number 2. So as someone that's been deeply involved in fostering innovative ecosystems, because I know when we first met, you had a different job and a different capacity when we talked 3 years ago. And that was always about highlighting and spotlighting what Orlando has to offer for any of the downtown businesses. How would you describe the startup ecosystem in Orlando right now? Because what you knew 3 years ago and what you know now, I'm sure is very different. And how does it compare to other regions nationally and globally?
Well, I can tell you that Orlando is really investing in all things innovation. We've seen it in the last several years where there's been a focus on bringing in companies, organizations that are focused in growth and technology in the greater Orlando area. And what I'm noticing as well, having worked with a lot of small businesses, is the use, adaptation of technologies into the workspaces. We're seeing it adopted in restaurants, in the hospitality industry, our hoteliers with their robotics, check-in systems. Technology is an immersive thing that we're experiencing on a daily basis, and sometimes it creeps in, and sometimes it's very intrusive, right? We come into a space and we're used to having a person in front of us, and now they're asking us to use mobile devices to identify whether we're checking into a hotel room or opening a menu, getting into an autonomous vehicle. So there's different things that are happening in technology, but here in the greater Orlando area, you're seeing autonomous vehicles. You're hearing about, air taxis in the works. You're talking about integrating a lot more of the technologies in all areas of construction, mobility, energy efficiencies. So it's more and more being ingrained in our everyday life. And I think people are witnessing it as they find themselves maybe now with their meters at their homes. They're now digital. So you don't have people maybe, coming into your yards now to check your meters and your energy consumption and finding energy efficient ways to conserve power, water, doing the different processes that we need. And so I say here in Orlando, we're finding that it is growing in that space, and there's a lot more investment in the innovation and those that are bringing in the innovation. As you can see, Tech Plug and Play is bringing this new location and expanding in the state of Florida. That just shows you how far reaching the desire to grow and innovate here in Orlando, how it's getting out and about, and those that have an interest in seeing it and being a part of it are coming into our region to play a role in that.
I hope that we're taking pictures of this kind of stuff, because this morning I was looking up, what did Orlando look like in the early 1920s? They were black and white photos.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it just being black and white. That was impressive to me. And then I was looking at what the street that I'm on, Pine Street, what did that look like? And then Orange and all of the other buildings. And I went, wow, there's been so much change. I hope historically, I don't know if that's part of what you guys do in the smart city area. Take pictures of the before and then boom, here we are like years later. It is massive. Are you guys also situated in Lake Nona? Because that area is just booming like crazy.
So that's where our Neo City location is for semiconductors.
I thought Neo City was Kissimmee, no?
No, no, they're in Osceola, but it is a part of that atmosphere, right? That innovation. So they're right in the thick of it when it comes to the semiconductor, investment and development area here in Central Florida.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I knew that. I know Lake Nona is well known for they have quite a bit going on with autonomous driving cars and, EVs and electric vehicles and the You mentioned, on taxis, air taxis, that's happening, but it's also going to be medical. It is the medical city for everything.
Correct. For Central Florida, absolutely. And you're going to see more of that. And so we do expect to see more investment in innovations in those areas. When you're talking about the medical space, definitely, hospitals can see different types of technology being integrated into their everyday, whether it's for, medical procedures, whether it's, customer facing check-in, data management, being able to access information more readily. So I think we're going to see more and more innovation, especially as we've seen AI penetrate, our everyday lives. You're going to see more and more that bringing new technologies and new ways of service into our community.
Mm, yeah. I think that we don't recognize how fast it's moving, the landscape, literally the physical landscape, the the immersive things that are happening where, I pick up my phone and go, okay, what happened here? But it is happening not just, I don't even think I want to say on a daily basis. It happens almost in the same day.
Oh yeah, it's pretty exponential. You're seeing every day someone is creating something new. New technology is being developed, especially when you have access. I know AI has been a hot button, hot topic for weeks, months, last couple of years, but you're really seeing more and more every day people adopting it, creating their own agents, their own chatbots, and how they're leveraging this technology to really elevate their industry, change the landscape of their industry, change the landscape of industry as a whole, as more people are finding new ways, new creative ways to monetize what they're doing, to extend the reach of their work, dig deeper into their research. It's something that you've never seen. What has taken an individual years, now they can manage to accomplish in just such a short window of time. And it's very empowering. At the same time, with the with the dash of caution, right? Because it's still in its early discovery development phases, I think, when it comes to individual users and what they're generating. And so we've seen many times where people have leveraged the output of such technology at face value, and that's not the safest route. You need to take caution in making sure that what you're putting out into the environment is correct, and there aren't any hallucinations, and the information that is being provided is curated and accurate and not just, copy and pasting things. So
I know you're supposed to be going out to California pretty soon. I guess is it in January of next
in
year?
January, yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm sure you're going to get a lot more exposure to other cool things that's happening there. Plug and Play is known for its work with startups and corporate partners. How does this organization support startups in accelerating their growth? And what sets it apart from other accelerator programs? Because first off, is there a cost?
There is no cost. No.
Okay, so anybody can sign up.
Anyone can be vetted to be a part of the program. Just keep in mind that it is a very solutions-based approach based on the partners that we have in our ecosystem. And if you have a chance to visit our Plug and Play Tech Center website, it gives you a bird's eye view of the different verticals and the different corporations that we partner with to bring solutions into these industries. And so that would be, like, for me, my biggest takeaway as I'm navigating the space is really looking at the solutions-based approach, is finding those innovators that are bringing solutions into these areas of interest. And then at no cost, inviting them to be a part of the program, putting them through the program, which really focuses on elevating what they're doing, connecting them with people and resources that they need to really take their startup to the next level. There is no equity that is involved. It's simply an investment in them and in their company. And obviously, with connections to, venture capital, there's an opportunity to also provide, those connections to get them the financial support they need to continue to grow.
So I went to the website. I get to do that because I don't know anything. And thanks for that really great definition and information. That was very good. So I'm sitting here going, it's been a while. I want to go and get, re-engaged and, find out how I can be a part of it. They have something called challenge offers. I found this interesting. And it was underneath the category of startups. Solve real world problems and propel your startup to the next level. MIT does, they call them challenge also. Challenge, not offerings, but challenge. I think they just call them challenges. Anyway, they come in here and they tell us what the problem statements are, and then, how can we provide solutions. So they have something here for Europe, something for Amazon, all types of things. So if somebody, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, is there like an application? Can somebody get started with an application, or do they reach out to you for information?
That's a fair question, and I would need to delve into it myself to really provide an answer for that. My focus from the program management side is I work with the startups that are invited to be a part of the program. So once they're invited, then I take them in and I go through an onboarding interview process to better understand where they're at and what the challenges are that they're facing, and help connect them with those resources and those individuals to help them through the program. We do have a ventures arm. They're the ones who actually go out there and seek those startups and vet them and bring them to our partners, and that's where they go through the selection process.
I'm looking at all of the programs. I see they have one that says, I don't know what Edge Innovation Challenge. There's one for enterprise. So I'm kind of picking like what I think would be where I should probably focus. There was something for women also. I can't get back to it because the website is not allowing me to go back to the other side of it. Like the little directional things that they only let you go in one direction. That's interesting. So I can see quite a bit of opportunity there. I also see they have a venture capital group, and there's the option where possibly, being able to get that support, that financial support could be an option too. So I'm going to do my homework and make sure I know more about it so I can come in and definitely have a more focused conversation. I fit under SaaS is what Alex Tran had told me, is because as a SaaS product that reaches out to enterprise. So I knew what my categories were, and that's helpful. This looks phenomenal. I cannot be more impressed that you're with such a dynamic company and you're going to be able to bring so much type of opportunity after you come back from California. So I'm excited for you.
I am super excited. I feel like I'm going to Oz and I'm going to meet the wizard. I am ready to go to, our innovation hub here in the US and really connect with all these amazing brains.
Yeah.
I feel like that's I don't know. They're gonna have to chase me out of there, I think. I'm
I
not gonna
bet you come back with books. If you do, grab a book
I'm
for
gonna
me.
come back so exhilarated. The program is phenomenal. I, as you know, have been an advocate for small businesses for a very long time. And it's always been my go-to to try to find the tools, the resources, the people, whatever they need to help them survive during the pandemic, thrive outside of the pandemic, really investing in not only their businesses, but in themselves. There's a level of burnout, but there's also there's feeding the business, but it's feeding your mind, feeding your soul, allowing yourself to fill up your bucket so you can get back in there and give the best part of yourself as you're working through your innovative processes. And so I feel blessed to be, paid to do something I love to do, helping small businesses. So I can't wait for for my first batch, the next batch number 3 for Smart Cities Orlando. I want to help them thrive in a way they never thought possible. And so working with them, working with our former batch, I want to call them graduates, but those who have come through the program, batch 1 and batch 2, I really haven't had an opportunity to meet them. So I'll be coordinating the schedule for the next year, and I'll have the opportunity to schedule events and meetups to really get to know them and see where they're at, and continue to feed them the tools, the resources, the connections they need to grow their businesses and continue to expand. And so if all things go well, we'll have all types of new startups right here in our own backyard, calling this home, and helping, bring our community, taking it to another level. And maybe, making it a multinational. Ideally, I would love to see more outputs coming from our domestic businesses. So more of that manufacturing and exporting of goods and services to continue to grow our domestic economy.
So what is your background? Because I don't think we even gave that a blink of an eye, but let's take a
Yeah.
step back. Yeah, what is your background?
I have a bachelor's in business and information management. I've always thought the data does a better storytelling than we do. I know as you think we're rational beings, but that's the last thing we are. But if we lean into the data, it will really tell us what we need to know to make effective decisions to level up or maybe step back if you need to step back. I have over 10 years experience working in government and travel and tourism. I've worked in spaces of marketing and economic development. I spent a few years in downtown Orlando running one of their Main Street programs, formerly Church Street District. We rebranded it to City District. That now we were able to successfully expand that footprint from like 6 city blocks to over 600 square acres. We were able to effectively not only rebrand it, but expand the board. And unfortunately, all of this was during the time of the pandemic. And so the focus was not so much when they brought me in, it was to put downtown Orlando back on the map, as a destination. But the pandemic really changed, the
Yeah.
direction of things for us. And my focus at that time was to try to save as many businesses as possible. It was a long, grueling time helping, as many businesses as I could, and having to, be that shoulder for many as they unfortunately had to close their doors. But I do see that it's just an opportunity for those who have successfully made it through to continue to grow and thrive. And for those that are looking to start up, downtown Orlando is a beautiful space to consider to start a new venture there. So
Yeah. And our tax base is not as bad as other states, that's for sure. So we know that you've been a participant at Startup Weekend. At some point in time, I feel like you're going to want to go, oh, let me go be an organizer instead and participate in a different level. What are your thoughts about the impact that Startup Weekend has in our community? And I know you've gone to 1 million cups. I mean, we can mention a lot of the things that you have been involved, because as you started over there with the downtown Main Street program, it's, to me, it's very similar as to what you've been experiencing, and it's always about pulling people together. But what is the impact that you've seen so far of, we'll say, 1 million cups and Startup Weekend?
absolutely. I think they're both great programs to introduce people to the space of the startup space and innovation space. I participated in Startup Weekend Orlando 2 years in a row. And it's not because I am a tinker, I am a thinker. And so for me, it was an opportunity to kind of come into a space and just see what was new and what was happening in that space. So I registered to be a suit, and that is to bring in that more business side of all things startup into that space. And so I was able to effectively work with a team and see how the organization just brought all these people from different walks of life, all different ages, from preteens in there with all levels of adults and backgrounds and cultures, and everyone kind of coming together and forming these groups around these different startup ideas that people really connected with. I think it's a great opportunity to continue to connect people from all walks of life. Like I said, I am not a computer engineer or programmer. And so for me, going into that space, it allowed me the opportunity to be a part of something, bringing my knowledge and skill sets in business and helping them on that side to bring that. So that's everything from identifying finance, operations, the programming, the marketing side of things, all those things in business all play a major role as well in the startup community. And so for those who have an interest but feel like there isn't a space for them or they don't know how they could connect, I challenge them to take that opportunity to enroll in one of the startup weekends and just get familiar with it. You never know what it might inspire you to do next. And the same thing with, 1 Million Cups. I engaged with 1 Million Cups um, remotely, virtually, originally, having seen it online in some of the different presentations through the YouTube channel that they have, and found that there were local locations, throughout the Central Florida region, and I was able to attend some personally and others virtually. And again, you get to see what people in your community are doing, what they're wanting to bring as an offering to help them create a business for themselves and lean into their entrepreneurial spirit, but at the same time bring different types of services and products into our community. And to, you never know what that might end up becoming for someone. And so to be able to attend a 1 Million Cups and provide feedback that may help them level up to where they need to be to really take it to the next level is also a great sense of satisfaction to know that you played even the smallest of roles in helping another person survive or thrive in their business.
So just so our listeners know, I'm going to give a little bit of background. 1 Million Cups is a global organization that is held at 9 o'clock in the morning everywhere around the world at Wednesday, 9 o'clock a.m. That is. People apply to come and pitch an idea. It can be a concept or it can be a startup. And they get, I think it's 6 minutes to pitch, right? Is it still six?
I think so.
6 minutes to pitch. I used to be an organizer. I should know this, but I'm having to check. And then they have 18 minutes of customer feedback or, audience participation feedback coming back to them. And they'll tell them, problems, more things to tighten up on, as well as things that they thought were really, really good. Sometimes there's a few people in the crowd that are even investors. That's funded by the Kauffman Foundation, started, not funded, but it is started by the Kauffman Foundation. So they always look for people to participate. And then Startup Weekend, in case you don't know what that is, it's a Techstars program. It's put on, it is also a global organization, a program where people can go and sign up, just like what you were saying. If you have a concept, you get to pitch your concept. We have 1 minute pitches, and then everybody forms teams on Friday night. It's basically a 54-hour experience where you go from concept to customer validation to you should be able to make money. And it's refining that. And so you don't need the big, long business plan. It's something that is an event that helps people ideate quickly, learn how to pivot and how to let go. So all of these things are very valuable if you're trying to get into a startup. So we're going to take a moment and acknowledge our sponsor, Cat5 Studios, and we will be right back.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat5 Studios.
All right, so we are back to the second half of our show, and my guest today is Rosangela Parker. We've been talking about Plug and Play, an organization that she is with that supports the ecosystem of startup life. So you've been talking quite a bit about some of the AI in the first half, but now we have more targeted questions. AI is rapidly advancing and is becoming an integral part of many industries. How do you see AI positively impacting startups, particularly in the realm of smart cities and other innovation ecosystems?
Well, AI has presented a huge opportunity for all small businesses to really leverage the capacity it has to process information, data, help generate responses. So I really think AI provides a great opportunity for the startup community. When you think of cost factors for any business, a huge part of it is your workforce and that the skill sets that they bring. And not to displace anyone, but if you do not have the financial resources to really bring in the team that you need, early on, you can use the AI tools and resources out there in a very responsible way, leveraging its capacity to process some of that data, to utilize a lot of that information, those databases that are currently out there and available and accessible to the public, to really provide you the information you need to make informed decisions, to really leverage it to create processes of efficiency to help you, better improve the way your business operates and flows. And so I think it really allows itself to really provide just that time that you need to really focus on your business when this can so quickly um, do so much. The work that it would take a person, several days or several hours in a matter of seconds, you can have a very, rough, I would call it a rough draft of what you need. I always say be responsible using AI. Do not take the information you get just at face value. I think it provides a great foundation to kind of analyze and tweak and customize it to make sure that it is in your voice and it is what you need, and that the information that you're putting in is exactly what needs to be in there to get the proper responses, right? Because your response are only as good as the questions you put in there. And the data that you upload into it. So be responsible in using AI, but I really feel like it gives you an opportunity to do so much more with your limited resources, used responsibly.
Yeah, I liked, not many people usually say this, but you did mention displacing people. And, the next question is always the one about, the side that we need to keep in balance. Jeffrey Hinton is called the godfather of AI. He's one of the founders that created AI back in the late 50s, and they were all over in university somewhere in the northeastern side of our country. I don't know if it was Harvard or where, but as they created it, they created a lot of things that we take for granted, such as, microwaves. Those were created. They created, honestly, flying cars. They were talking about this concept back in the late 50s. They created computers. They've created the cell phones that we experience. Everything that we have has come out of places like that. And in addition to movies, a lot of the science fiction movies that we experience. His concern was that if we don't put boundaries around it can, he literally said, it can take humanity down. And it was on 60 Minutes. His interview was there, and it was October 8th for anybody who wants to go look it up in last year, 2023. So that is a very interesting perspective, that a person that invented it now wishes that he had not, because he's looking at humanity and being what it is it can be that we have some dangerous people out there. They created it without the thought of like, ooh, what could happen? They saw one side of it, which is pretty human, to be honest. So how do we address the negative thoughts? I watch Black Mirror. I've seen that. I'm sure you have, but I don't think that we should stick our head in the sand. What do you think we should be doing to wrap our arms around it and create some guardrails, if you will?
That is a tough one. It's been a Pandora's box. That box has been opened. There's a lot of that information out there. Listen, it's happened time and time again. We've seen technology be abused in so many different ways. It's tough. It really is tough to say, how do you put guardrails on something after it's been released? right? And so, right now it's, I really don't have an answer. I think of, when we started seeing things like the printers, right? Being able to print things remotely at home, and the innovator in you starts thinking, oh, you can print all these magnificent things and all these great ideas. But somewhere down the line, someone thought it was a great idea to print, weapons of war and print, guns and things. And we've seen what has happened, right? Now they're being used, and they're used to do things that shouldn't be happening in society, but the reality is it is. And so I don't know, it's hard to say. It's already out there. How do you put rails on something that has already been released and so many people have access to? It's I don't think you could put it back in the box. I really don't. I think you already have so much of that already out there that it's I can't even say regulation, right? Because I am a fan of both things, right? I want to see innovation grow, but I also have witnessed how it can be used and abused um, as a weapon in so many ways. And I mean, whether it's psychologically, financially, there's just so much that can go wrong. And so I don't think you can put rails on it now. That's my thought. If someone has a way of doing it, I mean, the only way I could think of is can someone, spend time, maybe open up a wormhole or something, take us back several years and pull this out? But then what does that do for where we're
Yeah,
at?
but they were starting it back in the late 50s. So you're talking 60 something plus years.
Exactly.
That's just not possible. But I feel like what they can do and they are doing is they talked about World Economic Forum. If it's somebody doesn't know that, I would say they need to start there. So World Economic Forum, just Google that and you'll go to it. It's weforum.org. They've addressed having global stakeholders to help champion responsible design and release and about transparent and inclusive AI systems. So they're addressing the governance side of it. I think it was at the beginning of this year. I think it was this year, 2024. The three big groups, Microsoft and AI, Gen AI, and two other groups had all said, okay, we need to stop. We need to pause in development. And they sat at a table and they decided to we need to have some kind of a plan. I think that was a really responsible thing that they did. There is now a lot more awareness and education is happening, I feel like, to make sure that people know how to use it. And very important for us as adults to be teaching this to children and young adults, because they just take everything, go, oh, it must be true, it's on the internet. No, and a lot of grown-ups do that too. So you touched on it, you said it. It's, make sure that you're using it responsibly, that it's a giant Google search and you get it in seconds instead of having to weed through it yourself. The good and the bad is all out there. You can't believe it's accurate, not yet.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, I know that we want to think, oh, AI, it's this intelligent being, but the reality is it's just a combination of everything we know, and not everything we know is accurate.
Globally,
So
internet, it's all internet.
you think of all the possibilities. I think of, okay, if OpenAI, whatever source of AI, if they're just feeding it the Internet of Things, right? I'm like, there is so much misinformation out there that all you're doing is providing all this, confusion into this, calculator that's just going to, add and subtract and do all these things and then spit out an answer. And it's like, how much truth is there to that? How accurate it is? So the outcome is no better than the input. And at this point, if the input is all things that are out there on the internet, I don't lean so much into believing all that. Now, if the source is, and even then we've seen it I know I have, some published papers are now being redacted and pulled back because the information that was published was manipulated or erroneous in some way. And so it's like, if you just feed it all things that are published papers, how much accuracy and correct. So I just say it's a tool. It has the capabilities of doing some amazing things. I say just use it responsibly and don't lean on it for accuracy. You provide the
Yeah.
data and provide the calculation, the question that you need answer. I think you have a lot more control of that output. But if you're just leaning into a question and just throwing it out there and asking it to reach into the void and give you an answer, I think you're going to find yourself very challenged to find the best answer for your question.
I just did a little search, who is responsible for AI governance? And it said there's currently no comprehensive legislation in the US that directly, US, our country, that
Correct.
regulates AI. However, the White House executive order on AI and proposed legislation at the federal and state level generally seeks to address the following issues: safety and security, obviously something that we should all be concerned. I know, as I had mentioned earlier, that World Economic Forum is doing a unified pull to bring a lot of global leaders together to address this. And I find that that's a good thing. We need to have something like that happening. But it's really, every time we have something that's been a major shift in technology, always has concerns as well as pluses. Well, concerns and pluses. With that said, we have to make sure that each time we launch anything, whether it's a new iPhone or it's a drug or it's technology, what are we doing to make sure safety, just like what I had read about, what is it? Safety and security is in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So coming over here, next question. As someone who works closely with entrepreneurs and investors, how do you approach balancing the innovative potential of AI with the need for transparency and ethical safeguards? I think we just pretty much answered that one.
I think so. I really do. I think a big part of it, like I said, it's a matter of I definitely say awareness is empowering. You need to know what's out there, and but I also know that you also need to use it responsibly. I don't think, like you said earlier, putting your head in the sand is going to make it go away, and it's not going to get you any closer to your goal. It may actually set you further from your goal as others adopt these new technologies. But at the same time, do it responsibly. So do it with your eyes wide open, know what you're looking at, and make informed decisions, not just hypotheticals, but really look at the data and let that guide your decision.
That's good advice. So what is the best mentoring advice that you would want to pass? I think it's just honestly the last thing you said too, but I don't want to take that for granted. What is the best mentoring advice that you want to share with our listeners about the future? Because nobody saw COVID coming.
Mhm.
Nobody saw AI. Nobody sees these things until it's like, boom, it hits you in the face, right?
Exactly.
So I sit here and I go, well, what is the next thing that I think I can see? I have things that I see and I have concerns about, and I'm sure other people do, but what is it that you think is the best advice that you would pass on?
I definitely feel it's important to keep an open mind and look at the possibilities. It's better to be aware and make informed decisions than not to inform yourself and allow others to form your basis of response. So really understand that there's information coming to us from all different angles. And so being able to do a little research, try things out for yourself, find your comfort level, and make an informed decision based on that. It really makes a huge difference when you know firsthand than taking secondhand information and basing it on that, unless that secondhand information comes validated, right, with actual reliable sources of information, not because you heard it on the internet not because someone mentioned it in the news, but really, doing some research, reading some of this information, trying some of these things out and see what works for you and what doesn't. But at least you're making an informed decision based on your own personal assessment and not allowing others to dictate what is and isn't in your best interest.
Good advice. Yeah, it's very concise and has real direction. I really appreciate that. So, how can our listeners reach out and find you? I put the Plug and Play website on here and your LinkedIn profile, but I don't know if there's anything else you want me to include.
No, absolutely. We do have a landing page on Plug and Play Tech Center's website specifically for Orlando, but you can always find me also on LinkedIn under Rosangela Parker. We do have a Plug and Play LinkedIn presence, and several of the verticals each have their own specific landing page within LinkedIn. So if you're specifically interested in smart cities, be sure to follow the smart cities landing page, and that is encompassing all the smart city locations across the US. There's probably about a handful of them now. We do expect to see more of those, opening up within the next year or two. So keep that in mind. But if you have interest in other areas, we do have specific pages for different areas like mobility or like deep tech. So keep looking at what's available out there. There are every year, I know for us in Orlando specifically, we put 2 batches through the system every year, and that allows us to help, between 20 to 40 new startups in their startup phase come through the program. And so I'll expect to have that many more now coming through in 2025. And each one brings just a variety of innovative, thought processes and techniques and creative talent into that sphere. So if you're interested in being a part of that, one of the things I'm tasked to do is recruit mentors to help our startups. And so if you're interested in being a mentor, if you bring experience and expertise, whether from the startup side or from some area of industry, and you want to be a part of these entrepreneurs' journeys, feel free to reach out. Again, you can reach out to me directly through Rosangela Parker at LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me at r.parker at pmptc.com.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show. There was a couple things you said, and I know it's taking one step back, but mobility and something else that you said. So how do you guys
sustainability, energy?
For our listeners who may not know, how do you all define mobility and deep tech?
Mobility, all things mobility. You're talking,
Is that
transportation.
cell phones, mobile phones? Does that fall?
Well, that's part of those are part of the deep tech space as well, right? When you're looking at the software developments and things like that. But in the mobility space, I think we've had a few that have been either working, you're looking at autonomous vehicles, right? You're looking at sensors that help power these things. So that's a combination of deep tech as well as mobility. So those things that you think can influence or work in any of those spaces, that's what we look at. I think they're pretty broad. Deep tech kind of branched out of the Internet of Things, as you know how broad that is, with SaaS and everything else that's in there. So I would say if you have any business, innovation that you want to bring to the table, we definitely have a ventures arm that would be probably more than happy to kind of get to know you a little bit and get to understand your area of business. And if one of our verticals would be a good fit, then they might just, if you're interested, connect you with those resources to see if there might be an opportunity to help you bring it into the program and take it to the next level. So there's always an opportunity, I would say. What I've noticed too is I usually like to move things around. And so an innovation that you might think would be perfect for mobility might also be very well adapted into, let's say, the health space. And so there's always an opportunity to look at it from a different perspective. Look at the different verticals that are there and say, hey, can my innovation have an impact in any of these areas? And is that a pivot worth taking? So keep that in mind. You just never know.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Congratulations again. Take lots of pictures when you go out there. I'd love to see like the inside of Plug and Play. And I hope it's like, I don't know, how many days are you going to be there?
I'll be there for 3 days. Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be intense then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. I've been very lucky. I've got an awesome team that I'm working with, boots on the ground here, and I've met several people from our headquarters, so I can't wait to meet them in person. And they're doing amazing work, and everyone seems just so happy and satisfied with the work that they're doing and the impact that they're having. And I'm just so glad to be a part of it.
I am happy for you also. Well, you take care and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you to our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and thank you to our video production and editing team. Music is by Sophie Lloyd. The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Employers for Change, helping hiring teams to recruit and upskill their intern talent and employees. Learn more at www.e4c.tech and become a member to reduce hiring bias and improve your company culture through head and heart smart recruitment and learning. Subscribe to the Intern Whisperer today and show your support by sharing our show, tagging a friend to listen, and leaving us comments. You can find the Intern Whisperer podcast on Employers for Change YouTube channel or streaming from your favorite podcast channel.